me from some shows like Attack on Titan and the voice of Armin Arlert, Tokoyami Fumikage and My Hero Academia, Yuri Katsuki and Yuri on Ice, Tyrion Kalos and Ruby, Dr. Stone, a whole bunch of Shonen Anime actually, and Dragon Ball Super, and not sure. We've got a whole lot of different shonen stuff that we can talk about. However, you are welcome to ask any questions, even related to anime that aren't necessarily shonen, so please don't be shy. And this lovely gentleman next to me is...
Who should I be today? I always have to come up with somebody. Taliesin Jaffe, ladies and gentlemen. Yes, you'll know me from Critical Role and Mr. Bomb. No, I'm just kidding. I pulled that one out of the air. All right, my name is David Vincent, and I'm a voice actor based out of Los Angeles. I have been at it for quite some time, and some of the stuff that you might know me from would be Bleach, is Grimmjow, which just dropped yesterday, which is really cool, the 1,000-Year Blood War third season. And then Jujutsu Kaisen as Kento Nanami. And let's see, Gilgamesh in the Fate series, and Robin from Fire Emblem, just a whole bunch. I've been at it for quite some time, and been involved in Shonen, and so we can talk about Shonen, like Jessie said. We can talk about Shonen, we can talk about whatever we want. But thrilled to be here. I've had a great weekend. I hope you guys have had a good weekend too. It's been incredible getting to go around and see all this beautiful art with the tattoo artists. And just seeing the remarkable talent that is here.
Anybody get a tattoo? Raise your hand. Yeah, one.
Awesome.
Hell yeah. The brave one out of all of them.
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Dr. Anime. I will be moderating this panel. You will know me from nothing. So let's go and get started. To start off, what role do you feel like you are most recognized for? Or do most people come up to you about?
Right now, it's 100% Kento Nanami from Jujutsu Kaisen. That one, the show has just become a juggernaut and became so popular. I think it was won the Guinness Book of World Records for the most popular, most watched anime.
Wow.
Last year. Yeah.
Congratulations.
And so thank you. Yeah, I was really excited by that, and it's just a really good show and really good writing and really good acting and really good characters, and so definitely Kento Nanami, and then my number two would definitely be Grimmjow.
Armin Arlert from Attack on Titan, usually, which just ended this past year, and but it already is starting to get kind of a new life with being released on like Disney Plus and Hulu and these other really amazing, like, it's almost like modern day syndication. Like, we're so incredibly lucky for these shows to have reached the heights that they have. And I feel like while Attack on Titan does kind of follow some of the traditional shonen tropes, there's a whole lot that it actually goes against. Whereas like, for example, a lot of the times the young hero is always about, it's the positive force in the show, and it's kind of driving this stuff forward, and is all about improving themselves constantly. Gotta be the best. Enemies become friends. Life. Like, a lot of it is a lot about the young hero's journey. Whereas with something like Attack on Titan, it was flipped around. The main character was more often than not the source of drama. The source of, while the show was being driven by that character, the character was more often than not causing trouble and making things worse for everybody else, and friends became enemies instead of the other way around. So it's a really interesting take on the shonen genre, and I think that would be the one that I'm most known for.
And have you ever been asked to spoil an episode or an upcoming season?
Yeah.
Do you ever spoil it?
If there's not a whole lot of people in line, then I'll try to get the person to come and so I can whisper in their ear just to kind of let them know. But most of the time, I'll just tell people I'm not going to spoil anything for you. They're very grateful.
That's great. And what's a memorable fan interaction you've had? I'm sure you've had a ton of them, especially related to these really popular characters in anime.
I mean, there are so many. For me, it can range from like super funny and hysterical that I laugh about to really really touching moments that are extremely meaningful to me. Just having folks, getting to meet folks. Number one, this is probably the best part about my career. Is I love the work. That's the whole reason why I got into it. I've been at this for a very very long time. But for me, getting to go and meet people and then and share in the joy of what we participate in and what we enjoy together, that's the best part of this. In talking about it and talking about the characters and moments that these create. So that for me is awesome. But for like moments in line where somebody will say that, hey, listen, I was watching the show and your character in this arc of the show actually helped me through a really difficult time. Those are the things that really just mean a lot to me. Like, wow, that's very touching for me and meaningful for me to be able to be a part of that. And then just a lot of crazy stories, funny stories. I always tell this story. This is when I first, this was a long time, this was over 10 years ago, when Grimmjow first came out. I was walking through in an anime convention in Houston. I was walking through the hallway, the atrium of the hotel, and there was this dude comes up to me and he's like, and my wife was with me, and he's like, hey, you're the voice of Grimmjow, right? I'm like, yeah. And he goes, hey, dude, my best friend is here and his girlfriend just dumped him and she's here with a new guy. So he's really bummed. Would you just come over? He's a big fan of yours. Will you just come over and say, something to cheer him up? So I'm like, all right, you got it, man. Let's do it. So he brings me upstairs, which is a big red flag. I would never go to somebody's hotel room. My wife was with me, and I'm like, all right, we're gonna go to the hotel room where he's at. He opens the door and he's like, wait here. Okay, opens the door, and there's like 15 guys in this hotel room. And he's like motioning for me to come in silently. And I walk into the room and it smells like socks and butt. And so it's just awful. But I walk in and there's this dude sitting on the bed with his back to me. And he is built like The Rock. I mean, just muscular and like huge. And so I go up behind him. And I just go, cheer up, Soul Reaper, in the well, she ain't worth it, or whatever it was that I said. And this very muscular guy turns around and looks up at me and he goes, oh my God, I'm melting into these sheets. I'm just like, oh man. So it's moments like that just are hysterical because we were just on the floor laughing about the whole situation. And we cheered him up. He was great after that, so.
Sounds like the moral of the story is to follow people back to their apartment.
Yeah, follow them back to their apartment, alone. Yes.
Recipe for success.
Yes. Nothing bad would ever happen.
No, never. It's more or less the same for me. Always a mix of different types of people coming up and the things that they say. A lot of times, I guess one of my funniest ones would be one of the first autograph sessions I ever did, also in a con in Houston. I wonder if it was the same Onicon.
Yeah, that was it.
Yeah, it was Onicon. Yeah. We had this huge group. It was called the Big Ass Voice Actor Panel, and because it just had everybody on it. And afterwards, we were doing a signing, and this dude came up. He's like, "I just wanted a signature," and we're like, "Oh, all right, yeah, we can give you a signature." I'm like, "What would you like?" And he just pulls out a roll of toilet paper from his hotel room and a banana. And can you sign these? It's like, sure, man. I don't know what you're gonna do with the banana, especially, but yeah, like both of these are going to vanish at some point. Both of these signatures are gone. It's like, and but I also get the other side of that, which is the very sweet people that come up and talk about how either characters that I've played or shows that I've been involved with were very important to them in a very difficult time in their life, or helped them realize something about themselves and gave them the courage to embrace that or explore that. Or I've had soldiers come and tell me that a show I did years ago, Kenichi, helped them survive Iraq. Like, just, you can't describe the feeling of these situations. Just that it's humbling and it feels like a very powerful responsibility to make sure that everybody who comes up knows that we deeply appreciate them and their experiences, and as much as we might have been a part of them getting through something tough, they're the ones that did all the work. But just to be able to be there and be a part of that for them is indescribable.
Absolutely amazing. Just to kind of go off the shonen part of this, when it comes to a lot of the anime that you have been in, were you familiar with their manga beforehand? Were you fans of them, or was it one of those things where you audition and you got this role and then it's like, oh man, I need to kind of do a little bit more research. Let's look at this. Oh my gosh, this is actually really cool. Like, how do you kind of get into that?
I've never been much of a manga reader, so it's just kind of. It's never been something that I've been interested in really in terms of, there was one show that I did collect when I was very young, but for the most part I've never really been into comics or manga. I prefer animation. But there have definitely been some shows that I was a fan of, shonen, like My Hero, I was a fan of it already before we got to do it, same with Attack on Titan. So yeah.
Yeah, I kind of came at it through the back door. Well, not through the back door. I had when I was young, I got introduced to anime through Star Blazers and Speed Racer, and those were really how I was introduced. I was a big fan of Star Blazers, but I had long since, growing up in college, had gone to New York to become an actor and had really not paid attention to anime at all. And so it really wasn't until I had gotten into the acting industry that one of our colleagues, Steve Bloom, and then speaking of Tallis and Jaffe, Liam O'Brien, both of those gentlemen were pretty integral in reintroducing, or I should say introducing me into the world of anime. And so I was less familiar with the source material when I started auditioning for it. And it wasn't until I started booking it and then started playing these roles that I actually really began to dive into it.
And I want to make sure we have time for anyone's questions. So does anybody want to ask a question of our panel before I can keep talking all I want. So,
I have a lot of questions, but I'll make it online. Bring it! There's like 40 things going on in my head. Is there a character that, whether it's already been done, been voice acted, or has not been animated yet, that you look at and you're like, that should be me. I want to be them so bad. Are there any characters like that for you guys?
I can speak to one. I actually spoke about this on Friday, but I was really keen on being Hisoka in Hunter x Hunter, because I got the audition, and when you get the audition, you get what are called sides, right? So that's the script, and then you get an image of the character, and so I actually did a little homework on that character. I was like, dude, this one's mine. I'm gonna get it. And of course, Keith Silverstein wound up landing that role. And I had auditions. When you audition for something, you get excited about it, then you have to throw it away when you're done. You got to move on, right? So I had forgotten about it. It was about a year plus later, and then I was brought in to voice direct the movie, the Hunter x Hunter movie. And so when I was in there, I hadn't really paid attention. I hadn't really watched the anime or anything, and so. When Keith Silverstein came in for his session, I realized that he was the one that had booked Hisoka, and it was my first time actually hearing his take on Hisoka was when I was directing him. And I was like, wow, you nailed it, dude. Hats off to you. You absolutely crushed it, and that should be your part. But that was the one character that sticks out in my mind that I was like, ooh, I really want that part. Other than that, Grimmjow. Grimmjow was one of the very way out of character for me, is that I saw this character and I was like, dude, I have to play this character. I have to play this character. And I actually called up the studio and it was like, hey, Jamie, what were you guys at with Bleach? There's a character in there called Grimmjow. And he's like, yeah. He's not coming out for another couple of years. And so, years pass, and then finally I get an audition, and I go into audition. This is back when you went to the studio to audition. There's 40 other guys all auditioning for Grimmjow too. So I was like, man, but I wound up getting it.
So there was a show back in about 2006, 2007, called Kenichi, the Mightiest Disciple, and it was this lovely little, really fun, adventurous martial arts kind of shonen show. And I was at a point in my career where I had just started getting booked for larger roles, and I had my first lead role. And right after, as we had gotten to the 5th episode of that show, it was a show called Grimmjow. And I had been cast as Simon, or Simone, the lead character, and sadly the company folded, and that was sent off to Grimmjow got sent off to LA, and then everything else that they had at the time went to Funimation. And I was kind of down because I thought that my career was basically done at that point. The studio was folding. I lived in Houston. Dallas was 5 hours away from me, and Funimation didn't know me from a hole in the wall. And so they one day I get this audition for Kenichi, and I went to one of the old engineers for the company that had just gone down and auditioned for it in his closet. And it was kind of this last ditch effort to try and keep this thing going and see if Funimation would be something that could keep going. And Monica Rial, who had been working with ABB since almost the beginning, she had just moved up to Dallas and become a director for Funimation, and this was her first show. And she knew me, she knew my work, she knew my voice, and after the audition, she cast me as Kenichi, and that got me into Funimation. And I think without Monica and Kenichi, I would not be sitting here.
That's awesome. That's awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting how there are people, our colleagues, right, that are so integral and I think I've done that for other people as well, but I don't know if I've done it to the level, because Monica Rial doing that for you, Steve Bloom and Liam O'Brien, and then there's another shout out I'll give is Patrick Seitz. Patrick Seitz was I was doing a video game with Cup of Tea, and Patrick Seitz heard me in the video game, and he's like, "Oh, your looks pretty even for it's something over at Bang Zoo." Thank you.
Big old teddy bear.
Yeah, he is. And so, so Patrick was the one. It really is relationships. It's a relationship-driven business.
Great question. Yeah.
For y'all playing these characters for sometimes 10 plus years, and it feels like it is that is you. How does it feel seeing people get artwork of these characters tattooed on them? Does it feel like they have a portrait of you on them? Does that feel like that at all?
It does. For me, it does. Yeah, because I have seen the most incredible tattoos of Grimmjow, of Nanami, of Odasaku from Bungo Stray Dogs. These characters that I have seen, when I see, number one, the art is phenomenal. And then when they're showing me their tattoo, they're sharing a piece of their lives and their emotion and their bond with the character. And so I'm equally as bonded with them. And so for me, it's magic. I love it.
Yeah, very much the same thing.
Let me ask you this. Have you had a lot of tattoos of your signatures?
One or two, not a whole lot, but that's weird to me. Not in a bad weird, but in just really, you wanted my signature on your body? Have I claimed you now? Something along those lines. Yes, you are mine now. I know your true name. Yeah, it's a mix of humbling and a mix of I can't believe you did that.
Yeah, I have, not that I know of, but I actually had someone ask me this weekend to do it, and I think we're supposed to do it today.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
Are you going to sign them and then you're going to go get it tattooed?
Yes.
Sick.
Yeah.
Crazy.
We're gonna see. We're gonna have to see how that turned out. Make sure you're not too nervous when you're.
Yeah, I know. Oh, sorry.
Any other questions?
I was gonna say I had a bunch of them.
Go for it.
Yeah, just go back and do it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Does anybody have any questions over here before we do some repeats? No? Okay. Go for it.
What's your experiences doing video games versus anime, and do you have a preference?
Video games are usually a whole lot at once. Whereas with animes these days, it's a little more paced out, once a week. And I kind of prefer the anime model at the moment just because it gives me time during the week to do all the other stuff that I do, like streaming and then traveling on the weekends and stuff like that. With video games, though, one of the things I do love about it is that there's a little bit more freedom with the timing of your reads or the reads that you can explore, because a lot of the times there's not any predetermined flaps, so you can kind of put a little bit more of you into it. At least that's the way that I feel about it.
Yeah, same. I think with anime, you get a little more context why you're saying what you're saying, because you get the animation, you can see the animation and whatnot. And when it comes to video games, for the most part, it's like an Excel spreadsheet, and you go through and you say the lines, and you're 1,000% reliant on your director to tell you why you're saying what you're saying. I enjoy them both. I think they're great. It's a lot of fun. It's just a different type of acting.
Yeah.
So, I've heard stories about like a director spending 30 minutes on a 5-second Foley. How true is that?
It's true.
Absolutely
Yeah.
true.
Yeah, there was. She's since passed away, but Hiroe Tsukuyomi was one of the producers. Just beloved. We loved her. I loved working with her at Aniplex. Aniplex, yes. No wait. Not Aniplex. Yeah, Aniplex. And so, at any rate, we were doing Kill la Kill, and I'll never forget this. There was one thing that I had to do where, and it wasn't a Foley, so a Foley like a, right, that type of stuff, but it was just Seni Soshits. It was one thing that I had to say, one thing, and we spent over an hour on it of me just saying Seni Soshits a million freaking times, and she's like, "No, David, no, we need one more." And so she was so particular; it had to be perfect, but we finally got it. And God bless, she was really just a talented producer.
Chris Bevins.
I love Chris.
I love Chris.
I love Chris.
But
He's
Chris,
awesome.
Chris was like, there was a director in Houston who had been one of the founders of ADV Films. His name was Matt Greenfield. And Matt was notorious for putting his actors through the ringer every time, like their vocal cords bleeding, because he would be so particular about a read. Bevins was Matt light, as far as I was concerned, because he, very much like you, he had these very particular things, like he had a very particular sound and an ensemble of sounds in his head already for every scene and everything he was doing, and he was very particular about it. And I'll never forget, I had a Foley. It was just a one little sort of thing, and we spent 30 minutes on it. Like, it's just, and you know, I'm sure you've heard this from him. Oh, we're dancing around it. It's just like, no, look at my face. Look what I'm doing. And it just gets so, it's better though than Matt Greenfield, because Matt would after you had done it for a billion years of the 100,000 takes and had no voice left, he would even then just be like, he would throw his glasses down and just rub his temples and be like, let's try it again. And just at that point you're just like, why are we doing this?
And then what happens is they always use the first
The
take.
first take.
Excellent. Anyone else? Sorry, real quick after this. Yeah.
Do you ever have any difficulty like not losing your voice when you're doing a lot of like high impact noises and screams and stuff during shows?
Yeah, I've learned over the years, and I am not a singer. I can't sing my way out of a wet paper bag, but there is what singers use is what's called your head voice. And so when you're screaming, you can actually feel a vibration up here at the top of your forehead, and so you go up and out the top of your head is what you're taught to do, versus just oh. And so when you do that type of a scream, you put your voice into a different part of your register or whatever, and so that has helped me to be able to scream and all that stuff for a lot longer than when I first started.
Same thing.
I just want to say with the head voice, I used to do like a lot of singing here, so I remember that, and
Yeah.
the migraines that gave me, good lord.
I'm with you. I can't do it. I can't sing for shit.
On the note of like people you guys have worked with, I'm a big fan of like bloopers. like outtakes. I think they're the best things in the world. They bring so much joy. Is there like anybody that like other voice actors that you've worked with who's like your favorite guy to work with? Like you walk in and you see them, yes, because you know it's gonna be a good day taking stuff.
If Ian Sinclair has come and recorded before me, then I know I'm gonna have a fun time, because Ian is one of those actors that always tries a read that you wouldn't think of, and that inspires me to try and do the same thing. And I feel like I do my best work playing off of Ian if he's already recorded. He's also my best friend, so.
I love Ian. He's just good people. For me, we were doing Fate Zero, and Crispin Freeman, whenever he would flub a line, he would just leave the dialogue that he was saying, and with Crispin's voice, which is very prim and proper, would end every blooper with, and I really should have a haircut and a shave. And so you had all these series of bloopers throughout the entire show where you could hear the line go south, and he would immediately pipe up with, I really should have a haircut and a shave. And he would always say it in this impeccable Crispin Freeman voice. So I thought that was hilarious.
Any other questions?
With Yuri on Ice, because that's my favorite one, it did win like Crunchyroll Anime of the Year and stuff. Like, did you expect that to happen with a bunch of gay ice skaters? And then also, how much freedom did y'all have with that? Because y'all say some of the most out-of-pocket shit in that show. And I'm really curious because it kind of reminds me like the setup for like Skate to Infinity a little bit. So I'm just curious how, like, your expectations for the show and like just the directorial freedom y'all had with it, and like how those lines kind of
Well,
came
when
out.
the show was first coming out, like nobody had any idea what it was. At that point, it just kind of looks like Free.
Yeah.
But they froze the water,
Yeah.
and but the animation was gorgeous, and everybody was, and it looks like we weren't sure what exactly it was, other than what looks like a new sports anime with some of the most gorgeous choreographed, what's the word where they rotoscope, where they go in and they had actual professional Olympic ice skaters in Japan choreograph and do the performances, and then they animated to that, and it just came out amazing. And one day they just called me up and they said, hey, we would like you to be Yuri and Yuri on Ice. And I just remember being, that's that skating show. Okay, yeah, that sounds fun. And I had never been in part of a sports show other than Free before, and I was like, okay, I think I kind of got a grasp on what this is. No idea. None of us had any idea that it was about to be one of the best boys love, the best queer stories ever told in anime. And Crunchyroll had initially slated it to be like, out of the 18, 20 some odd shows that came out that season, they were rating it at like 17, 18, that they didn't think it was going to do very well. And then suddenly it hits, and everybody realizes that it's a boys love show as well, and first place every freaking week. It just kept hitting. And Sonny Strait, who was the director for it, he did have a lot of freedom to be able to, like, Sonny is one of those directors that while he will work with the actor just as much as he works with the script, and that he'll let the two of us work in tandem as well. And so it's always a very collaborative experience. And so we all were kind of putting in our bit of ourselves. Like Christoph, half the stuff that he says was just Chris Savage being Chris Savage in the booth. Like it's just him. And I can't say it here. This is an all-ages convention. But it's just one of those. It was one of those shows that came out of nowhere that nobody really expected, and it changed anime. The Japanese had never before had a quality queer story be on primetime television, and it was illegal at that point too. So like it was illegal to have any sort of queer storytelling on primetime in Japan. And the way that they got away with it was they were very ambiguous with it. And like what we think is a kiss could have been just a hug, because we don't actually see the lip lock and stuff like that. But it's very clear the sort of things that they're trying to portray here. And but because they were very smart about the way that they quote unquote censored it, it got passed. And the moment that did, they started writing better queer stories, and it ceased to be yaoi and just be nothing but that, and started to be these real human stories. And in almost every single one of them that I've had a chance to work on since Yuri, it's been the same experience of working with directors and working with actors in the script in a way that is so collaborative that we get to take our liberties with it while still playing to exactly what it was originally intended to be. And it's well, I will forever be proud of what we did with that.
Would just like to make one little
Yeah.
thing. Yuri on Ice actually aired at like 2 in the morning when it was running, not prime time.
Well, oh no, I mean during Japanese like
Otaku o'clock prime time.
oh really? Well, because what we were being told by the Japanese was that it was airing on primetime on whatever channel that it was being aired on. So like I'm gonna go by the Japanese. Sorry.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Yeah.
This is for David Vincent. You mentioned that you had done some directing before. I didn't realize you did that too. How did you get into directing?
Well, I mean, back in New York, I had directed some shows, some theater and stuff like that. And then, you know, in Los Angeles, really, it was just, you know, having relationships with the studios, and it was as simple as, hey, have you ever thought about directing? Would you be interested? And yeah, I would. And well, here's this. Nobody's ever going to see it. Give them a shot, you know, type of a deal. And you go in and hey, that turned out great. You want to do more? And so that's where that grew from. And then yeah, so it was really just relationship driven and understanding the work and understanding what needed to be done. And I've taught also a lot of voice acting, and so I think that coaching voice acting and teaching voice acting really parlayed very naturally into directing.
Any other questions?
I know you got
I was
something.
gonna say, I was always that kid in class. Oh gosh, I had my question. Keeping on the like line of shonen, like staying kind of going back with it. Are there like any shonen shows specifically or pieces of media that is like your go-to, like your comfort one? You're having a bad day, you cue it up. Do you have one?
Dragon Ball.
Yeah.
DBZ, I grew up with it, and it's. I can't find the old school Toonami one with the Bruce Faulkner music anymore, but like that will forever have a very special place in my heart. But just getting to go back and see it in any form, whether it's Dragon Ball Z Kai with all the filler cut out, or Dragon Ball Super, or the new Daimyo, like it's all these characters that I've been with, that I grew up with, and like some of the most important real friendships that I ever first formed will be through Dragon Ball. So that's my go-to. And I'm stronger than Goku now for the character that I play, so that's my nerd flex. And I get to, every time I get to sit back and watch him beating up Cell and be like, I can beat him.
Yeah, for me, I aged out before Dragon Ball really hit in the United States, and so I missed out on that. I mean, and I'm bummed. I wish that I had it to grow up with too, but for me, probably would be I don't know, Bleach.
Any other questions?
What time are we at?
Almost there. Yeah, we have time for maybe one more if someone wants to ask a quick one.
I thought you were an encyclopedia.
I have a magnet like on my hand at the floor. And then lastly, who is like your all-time favorite character that you just favorite overall?
It's tough. I can't pick just one, so I'll give you just a few. But definitely Grimmjow. I'm wearing the shirt. Kento Nanami, by far. I think Nanami because Grimmjow because he's a jerk, but he's such a jerk that you have to love him. Kento Nanami is probably the character that I as a human being can relate to the most. And I think that's why I am so drawn to his character, because like I get you, like I feel you, man. I would like to just go read a book, and go to Malaysia. The other one, and this is a nerd flex for me, is that I grew up in the late 70s and early 80s and throughout the 80s, right? And so for me, Bruce Lee was a massive influence on me as a kid. And so I loved watching Enter the Dragon, Return of the Dragon, all these Bruce Lee movies. And so when Tekken first came out, martial law was my name because of Bruce Lee. And then so when I eventually got cast as the voice of martial law, that was a huge flex for me.
That is really cool.
Yeah. Oh yeah. He's like, I forgot. No, I'm on a panel. I also have a couple. It's very hard to pick one because you kind of find different pieces of yourself in different characters. Like in Armin, I saw someone who was scared but also pushing through that fear to protect the people that he loved and to and was striving to grow as a person. Was always kind of the moral compass, and that's something that I strive to be. Kuranosuke and Princess Jellyfish was a huge inspiration for me, obviously. She showed me a whole lot about myself that I had always been afraid to embrace and explore. And Yuri on Ice, just because it changed my life in ways that I can't really put into words.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure you all check them out at their booth. It is the last day.
Thank you. Hope y'all have a wonderful rest of your day.
Thank you, guys.